Hello, folks. Welcome to Bootstrap Farmer Radio / YouTube podcast. Got a very special guest with me this week in North Texas. We are an internet company. It's very hard for all of our co-workers to get into one spot at one time. But this week, I've got Rikki with me in North Texas and in Paris at the warehouse. What's up?
What's up? I've had such a good week. It's been a jam-packed week, but it's been great.
Yeah, I think yesterday you said you felt like one of the first couple of things we did was like a month ago. I mean, we have jammed. We've jammed a lot in a couple of days.
3 days, but it feels like 3 weeks.
You have said throughout the week during all these visits, which we're going to kind of cover here in a minute, that it's been incredibly helpful for you to see all these other farmers, all these other farms at multiple scales, some doing hydro, some doing dirt, some well-established, some just starting out. You really got to see a lot in a short amount of time. Plus, you've got to see, like in your actual hands this time, products from the very smallest thing that we make, which is probably the 2-inch cups, to the largest thing, which is the 30-foot round hoop
that
house.
Behemoth.
Yeah. So it's so hard to kind of think about everything that you saw. So I'm just going to review all the places that we went. And you can talk about kind of the stuff that you learned, and not only how you're going to pass that down to whenever you're kind of working with the team on, hey, how are we going to answer these kinds of questions when we get them? But just for you personally, all the stuff you learned. I also want to say that you're starting your own flower farm this year, and you mentioned several times how valuable that was going to be, watching all these other folks as you're building out your own. So we can kind of incorporate that as well. So you flew in, this is a Friday. You flew in Wednesday at like 7 o'clock, 7:30 in the morning. I think we went and met Julian and immediately went to the fabrication house where all of our hoop houses are made. So first impressions there.
It was very well organized, which excited me because as a business, I think that we are that way. You know, we try to be efficient. We try to do business with good people, and to see that our vendors and our partners that we work with value the same things that we do really reinforces the kind of service that we want to offer. Everyone was so nice. It was the first time I got to see our greenhouse in real life, although it was in bits and pieces. It was really nice to see kind of where it starts and then where it ends. So.
Yeah, and they come in really long sticks, 20, 21 inch, 20, 21 foot sticks. So you really did see the raw material as it starts out.
Yeah.
We showed you where it gets cut, where it gets swedged, where it gets bent, all that stuff, and just kind of their process. Those guys are super nice, and it's one of those things where we use manufacturing partners because I'm doing what I do, you do what you do. Everybody in this company is working towards the same thing. We can't also be great metal fabricators and also be great injection molders,
right?
But we can all bring those things in, and you really nailed it on the head about working with people that have our same values. We spend a lot of time vetting these folks before we sign up with them. So
and I got to see part of that.
Yeah. And you did, because where we went next, but vetting these people out, it's almost an instant. Yeah, these are our people.
100%.
Because we've gone to a lot of other places, and like there's always something off, or we weren't comfortable, or they had other motivations for the way they do business. And the guys and girls where we work at, I mean, it's family. As you saw, we walked in, we have the run of the place, whatever you guys want to do.
Yeah.
And I very much feel very much at home about it. I'm glad you got to see that. And then later on at the warehouse, you got to see how it all comes to us. So, the next thing we did is you really got to see some super behind the scenes. Julian and I were at a trade show in Dallas where it's a bunch of manufacturing parts. Hey, this is where people find their manufacturing partners. We're currently looking for a few things right now, and we were able to see 5 or 6 different vendors. If each one of those, talk to them in person. The first thing I asked all these people, where are you from? And we found the folks that were Texas based. Reducing manufacturing miles is very important to us. Trade show overall thoughts.
It was really neat to see from a technical standpoint what you and Julian look for when we're going out and we're trying to find other vendors or partners. I am not that person. We have a special projects team and a tech support team who really know the nitty-gritty of how we build the products within our business. So it was really interesting to see, because it felt like I was watching you speak a foreign language, but it really helped kind of piece things together from the start of a product or an idea, and then, to your point a second ago, how it ends up in the warehouse and then in the hands of the customer.
When you saw part of the process where what we're working on currently has been in the works for over 2 years. We've got all the pieces set. We have prototypes they have been built. Julian's coming up in a couple of weeks. We're going to test these, but we needed 2 little parts that we don't have for anything else. And these 2 little parts, they're not insignificant, but they're not the whole thing, right?
Right.
But you saw how much time and effort went into just these 2 little things, and how we think about, where are we going to source this? Are we able to go visit these people on a regular basis? And if we have problems, can we work through it? How are we shoring up our supply lines? You saw us really think about the different states, because one person was with very close to a sales office of another vendor partners of ours. That works out because we go down there fairly regular. We could also incorporate that into a visit. But then we found somebody that we really liked, family-run business. They've been at the same spot for 80 years. They're in Tyler, Texas. It's 2 hours from here. That's where we're going to start because it makes the most sense.
Yeah, and I love that. I love that about us, to your point of shortening the supply chain miles, but being able to build a relationship where you can just kind of, like we did at the greenhouse manufacturer, we just popped in.
Yeah.
We called them a half an hour as soon as I landed, and they're like, come on by. And I think that's really important in a business, is to forge those relationships and keep that door open.
Right. Next up, what do we do? Oh, we went and had lunch with Amanda.
Oh, yeah.
So Amanda Van Hooser from Bishop Hill Flower Farms, who we're working on getting her here. Everybody listening to this podcast knows that I'm just in love with Amanda.
I am too.
She's the best. Watching you 2 talk and just being involved in the conversation was fantastic. Lunch was lunch, but then we went to her farm.
Lunch was great, by the way.
Yeah. Got to get you in front of some Texas barbecue. Her farm.
Oh, it was incredible. This whole trip, you've heard me talk about how everyone has been incredible, but just to see, fast forward 10, 15, 20 plus years in my career, what could be. And she truly loves what she does. She does it for herself. And I think when you start doing things for yourself, when you then progress to, giving that to other people and giving that back to your community, people see that. Just sitting under that tree with her for hours, just talking about her life experience and telling her she needs to write a book. Like, I meant that. And she taught me so much in such a short amount of time, and truly inspired me, especially because she's doing the flower thing too, that you can do it in an urban area. You can do it in between, high-rise condos. You can really do it anywhere. And
it wasn't huge.
No, it was a manageable size. And I think, we'll get to that at some point, but not biting off more than you can chew. And I am that person 100%. When I do something, I want to do it big, hard, and fast. And that's not to say that she didn't do it that way, but to see, okay, like, I can do this and I can do it by myself. And it was great.
Well, you mentioned the book. Very selfishly, I want her. I want all of her knowledge, right?
Yeah.
And I want that shared. And she is, anytime there's an important conference or something, she's very giving of her time, and she does speak a lot. She does put a lot of stuff out there. Mm-hmm. But I understand the hesitation of, she just wants to farm.
Yeah, she just wants to do her thing.
And as much as I want that book, it's hard to go. It's hard to be selfish and ask that of somebody. I've thought about that a lot since we left, actually. That's why I'm bringing it up.
I think the most valuable thing you could give someone, the most valuable commodity, is time. And the fact that she took her time out of her day to sit with us, that interaction, that human interaction, doesn't happen anymore. It's either digital or on Facebook or on Instagram. So I really love to sit with people and talk.
Podcast,
Yeah, right. There's something for everyone, but I think we really connected, me and her. I'm an old soul, and I felt like she had such knowledge and such experience, and I love to just sit with people and pick their brain, and she's just the most delightful person in the world.
So it's the tail end of winter here. I mean,
it's 80 degrees. It's over.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's currently 80 degrees, but tomorrow it'll be whatever.
26.
Everybody's starting seeds that we went to. Oh, we skipped the farm. We'll have to go back to that.
Right. Right.
So,
oh yeah,
everybody's starting seeds. You did get to see her place. Nothing's planted yet, but you still learned a lot just visually seeing. Okay, this is pre-season. What are some takeaways from that?
She did a workshop later on in that day that we had dropped by, and she was all set up and she was all organized, and she even mentioned, she's like, it's early in the season. There isn't really enough or a lot going on. She went and foraged a lot of things, which I think if it's not right in front of you, people don't seek it out. And so that was really, valuable information to me. Like, take a step back and assess, your environment. Like, you could create something beautiful with what nature is naturally giving you. And I think that that's something that can often be remiss. We're so excited to start our seeds and we want the pretty flowers and the colorful things, but I think there's a lot of beauty in what is left of the winter interest. So to me, that was really important and something that I filed away in my brain. And I'm excited to go home and just rummage through what's growing on my property.
I'm really glad that you got to see her use of dried flowers.
Oh, don't stunning, stunning, absolutely stunning. Like, there was just so much beauty there. And I think you posted the picture on Facebook of her dried flower wall, and it's beautiful.
We talked a little bit about the different times that she cuts these
Mm-hmm.
and how getting the most out of each plant and how to take each flower, each bulb, or each stem
Mm-hmm.
and use it at different parts of the growing cycle, and then now how that transitions into many months. Or I've got a dried flower bouquet I got from her well over a year ago, and
Mm-hmm.
it's as good as the day that I got it, and how that the color just really kind of freezes with time. As you're starting your own flower farm, it's just really something to think about
Mm-hmm.
of making excess when you can in the summer,
Mm-hmm.
learning to have the patience to and the space and the time to dry it, and then really do 4 season with it.
Yeah.
Before we went to Amanda's, I skipped over that we went to Skyflower
Mm-hmm.
Farm. You got to see a fairly large backyard farm,
Yeah.
a lot of seed starts, a lot of soil block
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. I don't think you've seen soil blocks before.
Not in real life,
Yeah,
no.
not in real life. Yeah, it's a big difference, isn't it?
Yeah, they're much smaller in real life. That was really cool because her environment was probably the most similar to where I am. I'm in a larger property, but I'm still in a neighborhood. I still have, people across the street. So it was really nice to see something that was comparable to what I will be growing in. And just the varying stages that everyone was in this, same area. Everyone's in the Dallas metro area. But to see where everyone was in the process of starting their season was really neat. Skyflower was trays and trays and trays of stuff. She had stuff in the ground, she had stuff in her greenhouse, and then, later on, we saw a completely empty greenhouse. So it was really interesting to see where everyone was at.
The other thing you saw there that we haven't talked about is she works full time, and
Yeah.
she's doing this from
Mm-hmm.
her home, which
Mm-hmm.
is exactly the position you're in. You're
Mm-hmm.
working remote. You're not going anywhere. So I'm going to chain you to your desk if I have to. But you're very much going to do this in the
Mm-hmm.
same way. You're going to get up in the morning. You're going to tend to everything you need to tend to.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to do your bootstrap stuff at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day and on the weekends. So I'm glad you got to see somebody else that's like backyard, remote working,
Mm-hmm.
everything that you're thinking about.
Yeah, which I think is a huge chunk of our customer base are people that have full-time jobs. A lot of them don't work from home. I'm very lucky in that way. But it was good to see that it's doable, and I think that's important for our customers to see.
You answer the phone a lot. And you deal with a lot of these kinds of questions, and we're going to do a second podcast about the customer service
Mm-hmm.
side of things. This is kind of the hey, Rikki's training, but farm impression podcast. But I think now you have the background to answer the questions up to this point.
Mm-hmm.
Now with all this other seeing the different scales, how much more depth you're going to be able to have as you
For
answer
sure,
the phone.
for sure. I talked to so many different people all across the country, across the world, really. And for me, it's before I go into helping anyone in depth, I ask them, what scale they're wanting to do it on. How much time do you want to invest in this? Some people have 25 acres and they want to put up 30 foot, greenhouses. I do not have the space for that. I got to meet people that do, and I got to see folks who had multiple hoop houses on their property. So just being able to walk in and see and be inside of one is so helpful for me when I've got, somebody in remote Montana that wants to do the exact same thing. I otherwise wouldn't have had the knowledge or the confidence to answer that question or answer their questions if I hadn't gone to these places.
Or at least be able to give them a resource at this point.
Right.
With a little bit of, hey, I've seen that before. Here's my takeaway. You might want to check this out.
Right.
So that's 4 stops the first day.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, kind of all over the Metroplex. We went to dinner that night. Our injection molder was in town, so if you saw the podcast,
The bags.
if you saw the podcast a week or so ago, you saw Tracy and our injection molder at the factory. He was in Dallas on other business. Hey, you're here. Let's have dinner. I also invited Drew Demler. We didn't get to go see his farm, but I very, very much wanted you to meet Drew from the nonprofit side and from the demonstration side of the greenhouse. He's at the State Fair of Texas. Everything that grows 100% donated to shelters and different community organizations down there. And he's just a delightful sweetheart.
Just the best. Everyone so far that I've met on the trip has just been absolutely incredible. Just the nicest folks. But it was really nice to see, again, the technical side of things, talk to Cal, just pick his brain. And on the flip side, he learned a lot, just, tagging along on these farm tours and talking to some of the people that we've met. And then Drew, I mean, not a bad bone in his body. He's the nicest person. And I love that he's doing it, on this massive scale, and all of that's being donated. I don't know of a lot of farms that are doing, full nonprofit, like just,
it's a very, very unique situation.
Very. And then during the fair season, it's, almost like I
feel like he gets to be an advocate for hydroponics and urban farming in that setting. Hundreds of thousands of people go through that greenhouse. It's I really believe it's the most visited greenhouse in a public environment that people get to see. There's just so many people that come through. So for a month out of the year, it's a poor guy. He works 36 hours a day. I'll say he doesn't, but he gets to ask. He gets to be asked and answered a lot of the same questions over and over again, and he also gets to figure out what the public views, often a very
understood.
Yeah, it's very misunderstood what actually happens in farming. And because he has been around for so long, he's a legit horticulturalist. He can tell them soil, hydro, no matter what the case, whatever their interest is. He's a great ambassador, him and everybody that works over there for the industry. I'm very glad you got to meet. I'm also glad that you got to see, this is not a 9-to-5 job.
No.
We had a great dinner, but Calvin and I did talk a lot of technical stuff about, we just spent a week together, but we still
there's
were
more
able
to talk.
Yeah.
There's always more to discuss. This isn't, clocking at 9, leave at 5 type situation. It's you live and you breathe it. And I think my situation's unique in that I do both. I'm behind the scenes, helping people, helping them get their farms and their things going. But at the same time, I'm learning from doing this job and talking to our customers and talking to our partners. So it's a very cohesive and symbiotic relationship that I have.
If you ever quit learning, I mean, we're now in the wrong job.
Right. 100%.
Was dinner okay?
Oh, dude, ask Cal. That's all I'm going to say. Ask Cal.
We went to Mahai Ba. It's my favorite place in Dallas.
So
Chef Peja, Vietnamese, fantastic.
If you're ever in the area, highly recommend.
I love taking people there
so
just to everything has such a depth of flavor. It's covers the gambit. We had everything. It was a lot of fun.
Even the salad was good.
I would hope so. I mean, here we are visiting lettuce farms. And the salad was fantastic.
It was incredible.
Want to shout out to Peja there. Thank you. Next day, I believe we started. You, me, Cal went to Profile Microfarms. Jeff wasn't there, but we did get to speak to Chef Joel / farm manager about the operation at Profound. This was your opportunity and Cal's opportunity to see all kinds of our trays in use. Deep water culture, vertical towers, NFT, flood tables, ebb and flow. I mean, it was the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
You also got to see some raised beds, which are currently furloughed, but they're fixing to start planting those. But it's a very large farm, multi-bay, full-on commercial greenhouse, heat and cooling wall, the whole 9 yards. I was glad you got to see that.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a little hard to narrow down your takeaways from that, but
I've never seen, a hydro NFT, like not basically a non-soil based operation ever. And on that scale, it was wild. I felt like I was at an aquarium.
Right.
It was such a trip to see, because when you think you're going to a farm, I think people have this idea of like grass, pasture, stuff growing, like, out in the in the rows, but you walk into this massive greenhouse and it's just water and plastic type tubes, and it was fascinating. It was a very scientific experience for me.
And just for scale, I believe it's either 90 or 96 foot wide, 72 foot long, 3-bay gutter connect. One, two, roughly 30 by 24 deep water culture ponds. I don't know how much. It's all my old NFT for my farm, or most of it is. There has to be at least 3,000 holes of production there. You got to see microgreens. You got to see transplant starts. You got to see a lot of edible flowers, a lot of herbs, lots of different mints.
They're completely edible operation.
Yeah, got to taste a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, what was the thing? The toothache plant?
The spillanthus.
Ugh.
Buzz buttons.
Yeah. I'm a true farmer now.
Everybody has to eat a buzz button when you go there, just for the reaction of it. I like that Cal got to see it because he's been making our trays for over a year, and now he got to see, okay, these are trays from 5 years ago. This is how they're holding up. Here's trays that now you're making, and here's how they're incorporating into it. Everything's still working. But he got to see what people do with the end result, and I'm very thankful he got to do that.
He had a blast.
He was a kid in a candy
store.
He
was. It was really precious because I know the feeling of the heart eye emoji, and it was really cool to watch that.
Well, he said it perfectly, because I know that when we went to the injection molder for the first time, it's like, oh man, look at that. I mean, it's so cool to see stuff getting made. We'll flip that around. He had an equal. I mean, that's old hat to him because he's there every day.
Right.
But now he got to see, pretty badass farm, full operation. It's contrast to what you saw the first two farms.
Right.
Everything's just barely getting started. This was full swing.
Right. Those plants were big.
Yeah. They were harvesting right then and there. So you got to see the full, okay, there's some people seeding over there. There's some people harvesting over here. There's somebody packaging over here.
The whole production. Everyone was doing something on various stages of the plant. So that was really neat to see.
You asked me, I wonder what the water bill is. It's
yeah.
$150 to $160 a month because everything's recirculated.
Right.
I think that was an eye-opener. The bees, the rabbits, the chickens, and then what they do with the waste also demonstrated that there's not a whole lot that goes to waste in that operation.
Yeah, it's very, I think Chef Joel said regenerative was the word he used to describe it, which is great.
After Profound, we went to Piper's.
I was like, where did we go? It's all a blur.
It is a blur. Drove out to Piper's to her property, 10, 11 acres, if I remember correctly. But you got to see, okay, here's a large property. Here's a small outdoor grow where they're doing their cut flowers. They're doing their tests for her chef gardens. You got to see her hoop house, which is not quite planted out just yet. You got to see her indoor seed room. And you just got to meet Piper, who used to answer the tech line for us. And everybody knows Piper, but I think names to faces for you has been a big part of this trip.
Yes, names to faces. So many people that I've spoken to and that, who sweetly followed my journey from San Francisco to Nashville. And so it was really great to meet those people. Piper, the biggest takeaway, and I think I told you this, was, I'm growing in my backyard. I have a very large backyard for, living in a city. But I have a hard time conceptualizing like how to make the space functional and also be pretty. I'm getting married in my backyard. I'm going to host parties in my backyard. So I don't want it to necessarily look like it's my job site. So just seeing how she did something so simple, like cordon off little areas, to define the landscape and define the space. Yeah, I can have, whatever, 50 raised beds, but I can still make it cute.
Right.
So that was the biggest takeaway from her property. And just talking to her, she brought up the wind and how she's going to block the wind from knocking her plants over. She's going to buy mature trees and just things that I don't necessarily experience where I live. Because she's essentially starting from scratch. Correct me if I'm wrong. She's pretty new to that property. My house was built in the 50s and we have 10 very mature trees. So I don't feel a lick of wind in my backyard, but I know a lot of our customers do. And they ask us a lot of questions about how to protect their crops, how to protect their house from wind. So that was really helpful too.
What about, let's dial back to, you're talking to Piper, you're talking to Amanda, years and years and years of experience on both. What about the ease in which they navigated problems? A lot of people that you talk to are just completely worried about.
Right. I live my life like the Friends episode where Ross is like, it's fine. I'm fine. Like, I'm fine. And that's the mentality that I try to kind of impart onto our customers is it'll be fine. It's going to be okay. You know, Drew is dealing with storm damage and he was happy as a clam. You know,
he's always happy.
You're like, just to preface that. But I think it's important to start with it'll be okay. You know, it's not the end of the world. We can fix this. But to see Amanda and Piper, it was almost like a dance. You know, like they were just kind of dodging through their problems, and Piper had a tree that she had to chop down, and she already had a solution going. You know, and she's like, yeah, my hoop house is a little got some stuff I need to do to it, but it's fine. Like if you're going to go into farming, just assume there's always going to be a problem.
Right.
So it's going to be, is it a big problem or is it a little problem? Do I need to fix it now? Do I have to fix it later? But just knowing that you're working with Mother Nature and inevitably you're going to lose every time.
And you've signed up for this.
100%.
I called Amanda. I like any chance or any excuse I have to call Amanda. I call her. So I did have talked about something, but it was the day that it like froze here real bad a couple of weeks ago. And so she answered the phone and just a cup of coffee to talk to. But I said, how's your seedlings going right now? Because freezing outside. It's just they're either going to die or they won't. And I was like, thank you for that.
It's as simple as that, right. Truly.
And if they do, you replant.
Yeah. My cat's eaten half of my seedling trays, and the seeds are inside. So
as long as the cat's happy.
Tibby.
So we left Piper's, and then we went to 007 Farms.
Yeah.
We're now making our way to Paris from the Metroplex, which is about an hour and a half, hour 45 minutes, depending on where we're at. Way out in the country. You got to see the start of a vineyard. You got to see a lot of row crops. But the crown jewel and the reason we went is you got to see the 30-foot hoop house.
That behemoth. It's beautiful. It's like, I think you took a picture of me outside. I look like a little microscopic speck in front of this thing. But it's beautiful. If you have the space and you need something that big, 100% I would say go for it. It was important to know why that 30-footer was there. He is going to turn that property into almost like an event space, so to speak. They're going to have vineyards, and he planted grapes, and he's on this sprawling, massive, flat property.
Which drains fantastic. The whole time we built that, I think it rained 80% of the time, and it's just complete sandy loam. We never got muddy. It was fantastic.
Oh, lucky you. But that was really neat to see, and then hearing him talk about what he's going to do with it. He's like, I'm not going to plant it out till fall, but this is what I'm going to do in between. And just, if it were me, I would be planting that thing just in the dead of winter. I'll be planting zinnias in that thing just so that way there's something in it. But that was really neat to see.
And I also like that you got to see a hoop house. Number one, just that big, but number two, with all the bells and whistles, it had horizontal bars, it had the wind braces, it had the insect netting. I mean, he has every single option. It was also, you're not going to be able to tell from one to another, but that wasn't an RCS funded hoop house. So I'm glad we got to have that conversation as well.
I like that you brought that up, actually, because we do get a lot of calls on the customer service line asking like, oh, do I need this upgrade, or what is this? So being able to see it in real life and in how it was built, I can then better guide our customers. So that was really helpful.
Right. And I think as you've been watching our videos and going through the instruction manual, seeing it in real life.
Right.
Oh, I saw that picture where it was actually made and how it connected to everything as a whole.
30 feet did not sound very big to me until we pulled up in front of it. And I was like, you could fit 25 cars in this thing.
It's huge. Yeah. And it's so tall.
It's so tall.
At Jeff's, those are also 30-foot bays. It was probably 4 or 5 foot shorter than what this is.
Yeah, I agree.
From there, we now made our way into Paris. We went to my friend's coffee shop downtown. They have a grow rack there. He was right. I really couldn't show it to you the way I wanted to because they were doing a time lapse there. And as the person that does all the time lapses for here, I knew not to interrupt that. But at least you finally got to see one of these things in real life and the size of it and how all the fans work and all that stuff. So
now it just makes me want one even more. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
If anyone's looking for a wedding gift for me, I'll take a grow rack.
You're registered to bootstrapfarmer.com. Yeah. We need a wedding registry. Okay, to get on that.
Yeah, exactly.
God dang it, that's a great idea.
I,
This is how this happens, folks.
Imagine how many. I honestly think people would love that, especially because so many couples go into farming. I'm just saying, putting it out there.
That's where these ideas come from. From there, we got a preliminary walkthrough at the warehouse.
That was eye-opening. As someone who talks to customers and helps them with orders and looks at the orders, I have a profound respect and appreciation for our warehouse team. That they are cranking. I got to spend 2 hours, a little less than 2 hours, with the warehouse team today, and we got there right before anyone else got there. And it was clean. It's organized. It's still. It's quiet. And then within a half an hour, just boxes, 4 times taller than I am, and I'm a tall lady. And cool, calm, and collected. But they had a system, and they had it down, and it was easy. Our warehouse manager kind of walked me through what he does every day, and it's a very simple process, but the volume in which we do, and in the space in which we operate, efficiency is key. So I have a deep appreciation for them.
Well, and I got to walk you through, Leo and I have owned that building, I think 10 or 12 years at this point.
Mm-hmm.
That's where my farm was.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we ran our landscape company, and now it's the distribution point.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to walk you, okay, well, this is where my grow room used to be. This is where the sales office used to be. And now here's the warehouse. And this was the first edition. This was the second edition. This was the third addition that we did to the warehouse. And I didn't even mention to you that we actually put an addition onto that one. And then the whole new big warehouse, which is fixing to get added to again. We're crammed
to the brim. How many 30-foot hoop houses do we have stuck in that thing?
It's hard to speculate, but I would imagine that right now today we could send out, like, if somebody ordered it, that'd be great. But if somebody ordered 150 to 180 100-foot hoop houses in various widths, we could accommodate that with the plastic, with this accessories.
All the bells and whistles. Right. And I think that's a question that's commonly asked on the phones is, hey, I'm looking to buy a hoop house. What's your lead time? How long is it going to take? And just to see how organized everything was, and how we pre-kit as much as humanly possible, and to hear Leo be like, hey, when we get done with things early, we start packing the multicolors together, packing these things together, so we're always ahead of the curve and ahead of the game, and order a hoop house, it could be out of here in 2 days.
They spent, so our lock channel is made about, man, I wish I could have taken you there to where the lock channel is made. Close. Yeah, it's less than 100 miles from the warehouse. But that comes separate from the wiggle wire. So they spent almost 3 weeks this winter time bundling the 10 packs and the 20 packs, or whatever. I don't deal with packs. I don't know what packs.
It's actually 4, 10, 25, and 50.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So they bundled all that ahead of the season. So I don't know if when you first walked in, if you noticed, but all those real skinny vertical boxes, those are pre-kitted things. So whether that's the starter packs, like you said, the multicolor packs, because we all get, like, we get 4,000 blues on a pallet, 4,000 oranges on a pallet.
They all come packed with their specific color. Well, not we, humans have to put all of those things together. So
right. You got to see yesterday when we were there. You got to see a UPS truck being loaded.
Oh my word!
And then you got to see the gigantic pile of FedEx that was going out. That's
And then today I got to see it with no boxes, and then 200 boxes.
It happens quick,
hard and fast. I was like, they are working.
And so we have a proprietary system built by our owner that coded the whole thing. You get to see I guess what we can consider the front end of the system, the inputs from the customers. And I think today you got to see that back end, and kind of what Brad goes through whenever he's making, like this week, he's making a bunch of templates to make customer service's job easier. But I think seeing the front side and now the back side, and not only happens from the computer, but like you said, the human element, there's not a whole lot that can be misinterpreted at that point, and the efficiency really shows through. So I'm pumped that you got to see that.
Yeah, and it really makes me, I keep saying this, appreciate the work that they do, because, we often get like, oh, can I add something to my order, or, X, Y, and Z. Depending on if you placed that order 5 minutes ago or yesterday, your box could be gone. It could be out on the back of a truck. So for someone to have to go, hop into the back of a trailer that has 500 boxes. Like that's a lot of effort.
And most of the time it's going to be gone anyway.
Right. We are cranking out orders like.
So as far as like the hoop houses, are we in stock or are we not? If somebody placed an order at 8 a.m., more than likely by the end of the day, that hoop house is going to be kitted up, ready to go. The only thing we're waiting on is a freight truck to get scheduled,
right?
Which is often the next day,
right?
Maybe 3 days tops,
right?
And then the travel it takes to get to your local hub, and
right,
then however long that takes. But yeah, if somebody's placing an order, I would say as late as 10 o'clock, there's a good chance it's going to get boxed and sent out that day. So we're ready.
Yeah. We're ready for you to ship your order out.
I'm glad you got
Which
to
is
see
why
it.
It's so important to, especially as people are buying things for their business and wanting to start a business. It's important to just be diligent and go through your order, 2-3 times before you press submit. I know I do, and I work here, So just making sure that you're ordering the things that you need. If you're confused or have any questions, like that's what we're here for. Chat us, email us, call us. Leave a voicemail. It's busy season, so we may not get your first or second phone call, but we'll call you back. But we want you to get the things that you need and the right things that you need.
Right. It saves you time. It saves us time.
Everyone's happy.
Yeah. And everybody is happy. You've mentioned a couple times, as we were outlining this episode yesterday, you wanted to really say how happy.
Everyone, from the folks that buy our product to the folks that, work for us. And I think that's so important. In my previous life, in my previous careers, folks would always be like, you're always in such a good mood. And I'm like, I don't put myself in a situation that's not going to make me happy. And it's so cliche to say, but if you genuinely love what you do, it's not going to be work. Are there hard days? Absolutely. Are there days that I don't want to get out of bed? Yes, I'm a person, But when I actually sit at my computer and I get to, chat with our customers, like it reminds me every day what I do. I was outside planting onions last week in 30-degree weather, and I couldn't feel my fingers by the end of it, but to me, it's worth it. But, ask me to get up off the couch and get something out of the fridge, that doesn't make me happy, so I'm not going to do it. So this goes to show.
Well, I was employee number one that was non-family out of Bootstrap. So I've been here to see all these folks get hired, and it's like we hire nothing but A players.
And everyone has such different experience, which is so valuable, especially on the customer service side of things. If I don't have an answer for something because I'm in X type of environment, I can very quickly chat my colleagues and be like, hey, does anyone have experience with this? And it could be Julian, it could be Brad, it could be you, but this collective meeting of the minds across the country is awesome.
I like that most always we have somebody within the company that can relate pretty close regionally to most everywhere in the country at this point. Either from I used to live there or I live there now kind of thing.
Yeah, totally. We've got Pacific Northwest all the way to, far East Coast where it gets real cold, deep into the South. The climate experience, the growing experience, we got it covered.
What other big revelation have you had or something you weren't expecting from either meeting these people in person to seeing all these different farms in person to seeing the warehouse? We encourage farmers to go visit farms before they start anything.
Yeah.
Well, now that you've seen this, why is that so valuable?
Because you definitely see the things that you don't want to do. You see the things that make sense to you. Like it puts texture to all the ideas that you have in your head. I think I mentioned this to you before. I'm like, I don't know if I ever want to scale up to the point where I need employees, because to me, I think that might take some of the fun out of it. It's a very solitary experience for me, and it's a very personal experience to me when I'm farming and I'm doing, like, my fiance will offer to help me and I'm like, no, I got it, I want to do it. Like, even if I'm like lugging dirt into the backyard, like all of that is part of the experience for me. So when I'm thinking about starting a business, I can't scale beyond what's doable for one person. What you want to grow. I saw 80 blueberries. I'm like, I don't know if I want to, be a blueberry lady. So just seeing what other people do and why they do it was really invaluable.
It's the number one reason I insist on going to our manufacturing partners, because when I'm there, I get to see other people's projects, and the takeaway from that is, oh, we could totally incorporate that. I get to see non-industry stuff that we then get to apply to agriculture and to our projects, and it's made, I can't tell you the difference. it also sparks new ideas. We
Yeah.
see different colors, or we see different shapes, or different manufacturing techniques we weren't aware of. And because our partners are so great, we work through the what ifs of that. We do a little bit beta testing, a little prototyping, and hey, that's how some of these new products have happened.
I think I mentioned it as soon as we got to Karl's place. I was like, oh, I love this wash station. Like, it could be something as simple as, you know, how they wash their carrots.
If you haven't seen it before,
how would you know how to do it and
Right.
how to do it efficiently? You know, I, like everybody else in the world, you know, I watch YouTube and I see all these, you know, farmers that, you know, put out content, and I've seen carrots get washed 9 different ways, and I finally found the way that makes sense to me in my property and how I want to do things. So, you know, seeing what other people in your area specifically are doing is really important.
Speaking of Karl's, the thing we did on the last part of day 2 was we went to Sweet Baby Karl's.
We love Karl around here. You don't shop at Bootstrap and not know Karl and Amanda.
How lucky are we that we have this guy that's such a sweetheart, who is doing everything that Bootstrap stands for, and
with a great attitude.
Yeah.
Like I'm not a hugger. I could hug Karl for hours. Like, he's just the sweetest. His wife is the sweetest. Their operation is just so like tidy and clean and organized, and like that part of my brain, like, it really speaks to me. And he just does it with such a good freaking attitude, and that's everything. That's everything. You know, I used to wake up at 3:00 in the morning when I worked in gyms to open it, and everyone would be like, "Oh, awful," but it didn't bother me because I was loving what I was doing, and you can tell that Karl absolutely loves what he's doing, and he wants to share his experiences.
He's dedicated himself to moving up here, doing this thing. And as he's navigated, it's been such a pleasure to see him navigate this over the last couple of years. And I'm telling you, later, he's going to come later on. You're going to get to interview him. But he's going to, like, if you told him how clean and organized and tidy it was,
he would be like, oh, I'm so dirty.
Yeah. I want to see how much stuff you can remember that you saw just at his place.
Oh my gosh. So I remember walking the orange kitty, sweet little Leo, and he had the wash station, which was very organized. I remember looking up, which, just in general, good piece of advice, look down and look up. You never know what you're going to see. He had fans laying across the top of his wash station to help dry whatever he was washing. Something I never would have thought of, ever. You know, you walk in, he's got a cool walk-in refrigerator for, you know, I don't even know what he puts in there. He's got his microgreens room. It was a very basic setup. There were no bells and whistles. It wasn't one of our racks. It was lights and trays, in a room. And which is, I know, what a lot of our customers do. You know, our grow racks are an investment, but I know a lot of people want to get into micros or do it from home. And that was the perfect example of that. He had the hoop houses up the wazoo. I can't even remember how many there were, but they were different. I believe they were different brands of hoop houses. And he had tons of stuff outside, 120 blackberries. And I was like, what are you going to do with the blackberries? And, you know, he told me his trellising system, 80 blueberries. He's got tons of strawberries. He had leeks in the ground, tons of lettuce. I was picking everything I could possibly eat.
Ate that
Karl.
good carrot.
Oh, the best, honestly. And I'll say this on record, the best carrot I've ever had. It was incredible.
How cool is it that they just picked it, you watched them wash it, and
just right into my mouth. Like, it was...
Oh, that's staying in.
Man, it was the sweetest carrot I've ever had. It was just so cool to see all the things that he was doing. And then, you know, we kept walking with our little chaperone Leo, and then there were animals. And, you know, I'm from a big city. You get pigeons and rats is pretty much all you get for pets. And I was like, what is this donkey for? Why would you want this animal? And just talking to you, you know, on his property, and you're like, well, this combats this type of pest, or this will help you with this. And especially coming from such a big city to somewhere that now I have a yard, you know, I don't think about predators. I didn't think about pests.
So walking away from that, do you want geese?
Absolutely not. Never. But my chickies arrived today. Fun. I do want a donkey, though.
He was cute, wasn't he?
He was a cute guy.
You know, I feel bad because Shannon has, I don't know if you noticed in the back of hers when we were there, that's a chicken coop.
I didn't hear or see any, so I didn't wander back there.
Well, I don't know if she still has the chickens, but yeah, I think she does. I don't know. I'm always looking at plants when I go there. I'm not a chicken guy.
But I know a lot of our customers want to turn their properties into a grocery store, you know? So it was interesting to see everything kind of all in one space.
What'd you think about his propagation house?
Oh, there were just things everywhere.
It's a ton of starts.
It was a ton. And I think that, and for me, you know, I used to sell my starts at the farmer's market. Space is important. You know, I would sit on my floor in a little 4x4 square and pot things up and have things, and just having the proper space to operate is so important, because I would have, you know, my lights wouldn't go to the ends of my rack. And so I would have plants that would lean, or things would get leggy, and he's fully outside. You know, I was starting all of my seeds indoors and keeping them in there, and just to see again how people go about the exact same thing, how they go about starting seeds. There's no right way to do it. It's what space do you have? You know, what is your growing condition? How much time are you willing to spend? Like, you really have to be self-reflective and realistic and honest. Because if I wanted to start 2,000 tomato seeds, I would never have been able to do it. You know, but Karl has a whole house dedicated to that.
Well, and you saw everything was waist level. You saw all the heat match. You saw all the humidity domes. You saw the heater. You know, a lot of things people ask you about. I'm thrilled that you got to see right then and there.
Yeah. It was really great. And then you helped him because his tomatoes were, you know, a little stunty. And you're like, well, did you try this, and this? Or what about this? And again, just the meeting of the minds and the exchange of information was really cool.
Yeah, and that was one of those trips that we really, I knew we were going to go there at some point. We didn't schedule, hey, I'll be there in 10 minutes. All right, come on.
Yeah.
And then he texted me back, ask me about tomatoes when you get here. And that's, we have to talk about tomatoes. So, and it's, what you didn't get to see was, you know, here in a couple of, well, let's just say by June, that middle 3-bay gutter connect is going to be nothing but tomatoes.
And it, I got to see it at the start of the season.
Right.
So I'm really excited to come back in, you know, midsummer and see everything just bonkers, because that's going to lend itself to a whole other experience, a whole other, you know, wealth of knowledge. So I'm excited. I'm coming back, Karl, in case you didn't know.
You also got to mend some hoops.
I did. I bet my first hoop. Oh, that was so exciting.
And wasn't that difficult?
No. And here's what I'll have to say about the hoops is it doesn't need to be perfect. They're not staying there forever. It's only, you know, it's fine. It's fine. But I was really excited for our 4-foot hoop bender, and I was like, do I need this? But I'll buy anything that if Karl's doing it, I'm gonna do it.
Right.
And so I refer to it as our Karl bender now. But yeah,
and this was the 4-foot bender. Just so we're
4 foot. Yeah. So,
and they are temporary hoops. They go in when you need them. They come out when you don't.
Right. But yeah, bending hoops was not that difficult.
You got to see them working on their irrigation, which we're fixing to come out with an irrigation line.
Right. Which irrigation.
Which actually I didn't even mention when we were there, but that's some of our beta testing.
Oh,
stuff.
I didn't know that.
See? It's so hard for me to go to these places, and I've talked to you several times about this. Like, you go to Profound or you go to some of these places, like, this is so badass, and I feel bad because I'm like almost immune to it because I've been around it forever.
Right, but I think if you're going to these places, you need to come with an open mind. You need to have wide lenses, because I was taking pictures of random stuff. Like, to your point, you know, I took a picture of a drip. I took a picture of the type of tubing that they use, because I'm starting from scratch, and these were things that I'm like, okay, like maybe I'm gonna want to do this, maybe I'm not.
And for me, it's a time saver, because when I go, I'm looking past what's already out there. I'm looking past what we already know. I'm looking for the innovative stuff that farmers are doing. So then I can take it back to the design team or R&D and go, okay, I saw this. Here's a problem. Here's an idea. Here's a modification somebody made. What can we do? The notches on the tray. That's how they came about.
Oh, yeah. Who was it? Who said that? Was it Profound or was it Karl that was like, the notches changed?
I think it was Chef Joel.
Yeah.
That was talking about it.
Yeah.
Oh, and the other thing that happened at Profound is some rando chef walks in and he's there to pick up some stuff for an event.
Yeah.
I'm glad you got to see like how chefs interact with the garden. I mean, you're married to a chef.
Yeah.
But it was nice to see it on another farm.
Yeah. And it's different, you know, depending on what the chef does, right? Like, my fiance is in corporate food. You know, this was a restaurant chef. So just what they're going to look for, what products they're going to want to buy, how much they're going to want to buy it, and just how you interact with that particular person is really important when you're operating a business.
So tomorrow, to round out the trip, we're going to film you showing everybody how to use the new air prune trays and the new 6 cells, the new deep mesh. So we got a early release of some of our new products that will be available next week. But you're going to be, I'm glad that you get to be the ones to be, this is how you do this, folks.
Yeah.
So,
and I get to see it.
And it'll be at Karl's.
Yeah. If for anything else, I just get to hang out with Karl tomorrow morning.
And that's really why I want to go on Saturday. Number one, we're going to be out of the way because they're going to be getting ready and going to the market. So you'll get to see that. If we have time, we'll go see him at the market, and then I got to get you back on a plane.
Oh, I don't want to go. But I'm very excited to see them prep for market because I've done market. I'm going to continue to do a market this year. I know a lot of our customers do markets, and I don't know if he brings his wife, if he brings help, or
he does. And
that whole process
I think you're
goes.
going to see a lot of efficiencies that they've developed over the years that just standing back and watching is going to be great.
Yeah, to take it all in.
Having you here this week, especially coming off of last week when I was with Katie and Brad, and we're all at the factory, having people meeting face to face, it's been huge for us. And again, I think we get people that call us just to make sure that we're actually human and that we're actually here.
I've heard that. I have Julian knows this customer very well, but a customer called, they answered the phone, and he was floored. Oh, no. He called, left a message. I called him back, and he was just absolutely shocked. He was like, this completely solidified my purchase. And now he calls us like on a weekly basis to place an order. It's important, especially as farmers, we are not necessarily the most trusting group of people, and we want to work with other people, and to be able to provide that for someone is so great. And to see them come back and scale up, it's why we do what we do. I love to see people that started with 10 trays last year, and now they're buying 50 trays a week from us. So it's really awesome.
Thrilled you got to come. We're going to end this because we got stuff to do.
We got places to eat and people to see.
Yeah, that's another thing about it. When we meet, we eat. Julian likes to say we're not going to skip any meals on this trip. So
I'm going back. So much for losing weight for the wedding.
Yeah. I'll ruin that for you. All right, everybody. Well, stay tuned for the next few episodes. Rikki's got a lot more to talk about customer service. We'll see you next time.
Bye.